What's up, guys? In this video we're going to talk objective markers. So we're going to grab an STL file, stick it in the 3D printer, slap a quick and dirty paint job on it so you can earn those victory points in style. Hey guys, I'm Sixes, and I've been playing tabletop war games for about 10 years now. I've been playing RPG games like D&D and others for a little over 20 years. And here recently I started getting into the crafting and 3D printing the miniatures for the games, and I'm having a lot of fun doing it. But specifically I'm going to be talking about 3D printing a model today. So if you're new to 3D printing, or you're considering getting into 3D printing, if you may have the same concern that I did, playing a game like Warhammer, the models are extremely detailed. So I was worried that when you 3D print something, it's not going to have the detail that I'm looking for, especially like on an FDM printer like I have. But this guy right here turned out great, and I'm going to show you where I found it. I'm going to put it through my slicing software so I can show you a little bit of modifications that I made on it so it fits together better. And then I'm going to show you the little paint job that I put on it. And we'll get it ready for the tabletop. So let's take it over to the computer. Alright, so we come over here to Thingiverse and we look for objective markers, and we find this one right here. T-Light objective marker put together by that guy J1F. This one's unique because it does take a T-Light, and it brings a lot of animation and dynamics to the battlefield when you put it on there. If you're playing games like Warhammer, or if you're doing RPG games like Starfinder, anything futuristic, sci-fi type stuff, this one's really neat. If you look at all the files here, you can see there's different variations of it. They got the whole model here, which would work great still, but what we want to do is do the separate pieces. So we have the main body here, which will print alone. Then you have the tube, and this is the section that we're going to put the T-Light in, and we'll print that with a clear filament so the light can get through. And then we'll have the lids. Alright, let's download these files and get them over to our slicer. Alright, so we're in Cura now, and we want to bring our files in here. So let's go ahead and grab what we want. Let's go ahead and grab the tube. If we come to our scaling, we're going to leave it at 100% because this fits perfectly for the T-Lights that we're going to be using. But we're going to have to make this hollow, and by default, probably on most models, if you're printing, you're going to have some sort of infill. But on this tube, we want it completely hollow, so we're going to come and zero out our infill. And for build plate adhesion, we want to put this on a raft. Now, you don't have to do it for build plate adhesion. I like to because this is a cylinder. It's going pretty tall, and it doesn't have a lot of surface area to adhere. So I'm going to put this on a raft. So we slice it. We look at our preview here, and now we can see we got it hollow. And that's going to be our raft right there. And you can see that it's going to take approximately 2 hours and 45 minutes. Okay, now let's look at our next piece, which is going to be the main body. Now this one we're going to do a little bit different. We can go ahead and still print it on a raft. There is quite a bit of surface area there that's going to adhere to the build plate. But I'm going to bring it in just a little bit because we don't need a very big raft on it. Now we're going to go over to our scale. Now this one, if you look over here, we're going to make this thing 1 millimeter wider than it already is. And make sure you have uniform scaling on so it'll scale the entire model. And that brings us to 101.24% of its original size. And that's what we want. So we got it on a raft. We'll bring that back to 5%. So we're going to slice it. And it looks like this is going to take roughly 10 hours. Okay, we can go ahead and save that one. Let's clear the build plate and go ahead and get our last piece. We're going to do the lid. So I'm going to do a blank lid, and I'm going to do lid number 1. Now, the reason I'm doing this is so you can see both different styles. If you want them numbered for objective markers so you can keep track of which objective you're looking at when you got it set up on your battlefield. And then you just got the blank one just to make it a cool piece of terrain. While we're in the scaling, let's go ahead and get these scaled up. Now, if you remember when we did the main body portion, it was 101.24, so we want to do that, 101.24. And the whole thing scaled up. So now it's going to fit the main body portion that we're going to do, and it's also going to fit around that tube, still nice and snug, but loose enough to where you can still take it apart without ripping your model apart if you want to switch out tops. And we'll go ahead and slice that. Actually, what I'm doing here is I'm just going to center them, get them the way I like them on my build plate. Center, moving them both over, just off center there, and then I'm just going to grab the other one and bring it over. Alright, let's slice that one. Oh, one thing we are going to change on this one, instead of being on a raft, we are going to want to put this on a brim. And the reason we're doing this is if you put it on a raft, whatever face of the model that you're printing is touching the raft, it's not going to be very pretty. So we want a smooth surface on this bottom part, and what touches the build plate is going to be fairly smooth. So that's what we want to do. We're going to set it up with a brim, hit the slicer, and I'll show you in the preview what I'm talking about. So you can see the blue aqua green color that's around this. That's the brim, and it just adds to the surface area so you get better adhesion. But the yellow portion, that is the first layer on these lids, and it's going to be smooth when it comes off the print bed there. Okay, this one's going to take just a hair over 2 hours, and we'll go ahead and save that one and send it to the printer. So right here is where I was talking about. When you print on a raft, the bottom of the model is not very pretty. Now I ended up printing 2 of the tubes because I had one that I had broken in an earlier build, but you can see coming off the raft there, they're solid on the ends. So we're going to have to break off one of the ends there. As you can see, since we went 1 millimeter bigger on the main body, it still fits in there snug, but it slides in just fine. If you don't go any bigger than the original size, it is a very, very tight fit. The filament I'm using to print the tubes is 3D Solutex Natural Clear, and for the main body and the lid, I'm using Hatchbox Cool Gray. Alright, let's start working on the lids. So when I started printing this one originally, I had some issues, and you'll see here in just a second. The first layer started going down, and I realized as it started coming around the back there, it was not adhering to the build plate. It wasn't sticking to it. You can see second pass there, it went in like it was supposed to. So what I did was baby step back 99/1000ths of a millimeter just to drive that nozzle down a little closer to the build plate, and we got it to stick. So if you're starting at the main screen, go down to Tune, and then scroll all the way down till you get to Baby Step Z. You click that and you rotate counterclockwise however far you want it to. And there's a little time lapse. And like the slicer said, it took approximately, or a little over 2 hours to get this print completed. And there it is right there. So this was on a brim. Like I said, you can see a little bit popped up there inside the one. But when you peel it off, the bottom surface is super smooth. So we just peel this brim off here. Just little by little. It pops off really easy. So now we're going to do some cleanup here. Overall, this printed out really well. You can see that overhang there. We're just going to take our X-Acto knife and we're just going to start cleaning it up. And I'm not going to sit here and make you watch this in real time. So we'll speed it up a little bit so you can see the process of what I did. So just real lightly graze the edge of it and it just peels right off. Alright, so you can see I had a little bit of overhang issues there. I did not print with supports, so I think for what it is, I think the printer did very well for this print here. But we'll still need to clean that up. We don't want that to be in our final model. I'll take the clippers to it, clean it up here and there. I like the way it looks. Now where it's set on the raft, again, it looked like it was having some adhesion issues, and we'll just get that cleaned up and get ready to send it to paint. Now on the tube, there is a top and bottom. I choose this side to be the bottom, and to get it out, you just stab a hole in it. Just drive it in, then take your side cutters and just start chipping away till you get close to one of the edges, and just kind of pry up a little bit, and eventually you'll get it to start popping loose from the side, and the whole bottom should just pop off of there. And there you go. You should be able to get a tea light in there just fine. That's going to look good. Let's go get a base coat on it. We're bringing our model outside now to paint it. I just have this old Amazon box and it'll do the job just fine. I'm using Krylon Fusion All-in-One Matte Black. Any matte black spray paint will probably do the job for you. I've used Citadel and the Army Painter paints, and they work great. This is what I had on hand, and it should work just fine. After this dries, we'll flip the models over and paint the underside. I let it dry for 20 minutes, and now I'm going to flip the models over. And we'll go ahead and throw some more paint on this. The paint colors we're going to use is going to be plate mail metal, weapon bronze, goblin green, pure red, ultramarine blue, desert yellow, some dark tone for a wash, and I brought out the matte black in case we need to do any touch up. I'm using this Citadel shade brush. I use it because I like the way it works for the type of painting that I do. So we get some of our plate mail metal and get it on your brush, but we're going to do what I guess I would call a heavy dry brushing, and we're going to get a lot of the paint, or most of the paint, off of our brush. When you start applying the paint, do it lightly just to see how much paint is coming off of the brushes, and we'll speed the video up here again. But doing this, you're hitting all the high areas, you are getting some of the low areas as well with the heavier dry brushing, but you're not coating the model so much. And you'll see here as I'm handling the model, as I'm moving it around, painting on the different angles, it's not really coming off on any of my fingers because it's not a thick coat. It's a very, very light coat, and it won't take very long to dry either once we're done here. When we first printed this model, the layer lines weren't very visible. Now that we're starting to put this on, they're starting to come out more, and I like the way it's looking. It's making the model look like machined metal. Now that looks great already, but we're going to take it a little bit further. Let's keep going and get the lids done too. This is already starting to look good. It's amazing what a little bit of paint will do. It's really starting to come to life. And honestly, this could be tabletop ready. That's a cool piece of terrain right there. But we're going to keep going and take it a little further. With this weapon bronze, I'm going to pull out some of the little details on the model just to kind of break up the color scheme that's on it. Now we're going to add some more color, and I went ahead and marked the areas I wanted to paint with different colors here. We're going to start adding some red to the model, start painting some of our wires and some of the little drums or containers that look like they were attached to the side of the model. Should help to continue break up all the gray and the darkness of it and really make it pop. And doing this draws your eyes down to the detail that are around the base of this model. Now remember, it does not have to be perfect. We're looking for dingy, grimy, battle-worn terrain. We'll bring in our blue and paint some of these pipes and cables on this model. And now with the green, we'll do the same. After we get our wash on it, it's going to bring it all together. Okay, now we're going to let it dry and then come back and add some dust and grime to it. For this, we're going to use desert yellow. Now we're going to do a much lighter dry brushing this time, so you don't need nearly as much paint on your brush to do it. I decided I wanted the dust and grime effect to come up a little higher on this model, so we're going to go a little more. It may look a little light right now, but once we wash it, it'll darken it back up. Alright, so we're going back to our big brush and we're going to use a dark tone wash. Be pretty generous here, just make sure you hit every part of the model. Okay, now we got the body done. Now we got to do the lids. And guys, we are done. Okay, we're back. It's dry now. Let's put this thing together and see what we got. This is our multicolored LED tea light that we're going to try out. Staying at 100% on the scale with the tubes is just right for the tea lights to fit. And trust me, if you don't scale up the body and the lids, it is extremely hard to get the tube in there without breaking your model. Look at this thing. It's going to look good on the table. Turn it on. And now we got some live animation on the battlefield. I'm going to try some different lighting here so you can really see what this thing looks like. So we did the blank lid also, just in case you want it just to be a piece of terrain, not represent an objective marker. And this thing still looks amazing. So to help show you the size of this thing, I'm bringing in some models. This is an orc boy. Here's a plague bearer, a pink hoarder, and a Talos. So here's another kind of LED tea light. This is the flickering flame. It's just the one color, but it flickers like fire does, just to give it a different effect. So we'll change this out, and it is a snug fit. It is very tight. You see I'm struggling here to get that tea light out of there. This one's pretty loose though. This thing is so cool, you could use it as a fusion reactor or a power cell or whatever you want to use it for in your tabletop game. And that is it. The build is complete. Alright guys, so we're done with the build, and I hope you liked the video. If you found some value in it, give me a like. It's my first video, so let me know what you think down in the comments, and we'll catch you on the next one.